Hello friends. Today it is very important subject that we are going to discuss, that is environment and ecology. So why environment and ecology is very important? If you go as per the UPSC syllabus or the number of questions that are coming in UPSC from the environment subject nowadays, I am talking about the recent trends and analysis that the environment carry with itself. So it is said that almost 18 to 20 questions, it is minimum, that are coming from environment subject. So we have to make a very good arrangement, or we have to make a very good planning and approach so that we can make this number of questions good in the examination. So basically what environment and ecology holds. So it is basically, I want to ask you one question, that what is environment or what are the aspects of environment? So, excuse, anyone would like to answer that? What is environment? What are the aspects of environment? Okay. So, if I'll take an example of this classroom, then we have here lights, we have chair, we have you all human beings, we have ACs, we have water. So we here include something that is living, that is you, and something non-living, that is this wood, this chair, this air, the electricity, or the lights. So this all the things come in an environment. If simply I want to classify what are the aspects of environment, then it is human beings, that it is us, then soil, minerals, plants, animals, water, air, sunlight, temperature, pressure, etc., etc., etc. So there is a lot of things that our environment include. So if we will go outside this class, then we can see plants, trees, shrubs, etc. And we can see different kinds of organisms, animals. So this kind of thing, or this all the aspects make one environment. If I'll ask some very simple question, that in this classroom, that we are the only organisms or only animal that is living right now. Okay? Would someone like to answer this question? In this classroom, there is only one living thing that is present here, or there are something else also present here with us. Yes, there are microorganisms like bacteria, fungus, virus, etc. They might be insects, but I have never seen here any kind of that thing. But yes, microorganisms are present here. So they also form part of our environment. So basically, all these things that include microenvironment, macroenvironment. So we are going to see how they form the part of our environment. So next, we are going to see what UPSC brings for us in the examination. So if you will see the notification of UPSC, then you can see that there is a one single line on environment topic for prelims basically. There is general issue on environmental ecology, biodiversity, and climate change. So this is the only thing that is specified in by the UPSC. But for a better understanding, Guidance as IAS has also included agriculture, acts and policies, and related organizations. So basically, in this few 3 to 4 years, we have seen that there is an increasing trend of agriculture questions that we see in the examination. So we are going to see those questions further, but there are various acts, policies that are formed by national government and international government. There are various treaties for animals, plants, and for their transboundary communication. Also, there are various conventions that have been formed and are being followed and ratified. So we are going to see all those aspects. There are also related organizations that work for the betterment of our environment, like UNDP, UNEP, like UNFCCC. So these are the organizations that work for the betterment of environment. We'll be seeing these aspects further, but what we can see here that this part, ये देखने में छोटा लगता है, but this is kind of an ocean. This is kind of an ocean because you are reading this very simply here. But if you will see the questions that are formed on these parts, you will see that ये कहाँ से आ गया. So we need to know that how these questions are coming, how we have to tackle this question, what should be our approach or planning. So we will be going to see that how we can interrelate things between them, how we can have a better planning for them. So we need to see that how these questions are basically coming. The questions that are coming in the UPSC prelims examination for CSE, we can see one trend here. In this trend, we can see that the number of questions that came in 2021, it was almost 25. And this 25 questions included basic aspects that are from NCRTs, some basic aspects that were given in ICSC books, some aspects they were covered in Shankar IAS, some aspects they were from current affairs, some aspects they were from magazines. But there is a simple trend I will like to show here to you that the number of questions that are coming on year basis, if I take an average of it, like in 2014 it was 18 question, 2015 it was 14 question, 2016 it was 16 questions. In 2017 there were only 13 questions. Okay? In 2019 there were 20 questions. 20 it was 18 and 21 it was 25. So you can see here that the minimum number of questions that are coming from environment, it is almost not less than 18 questions. So 18 questions play a very big role in our preparation, in our examination, because this number of questions are covered with the full syllabus of history, which covers ancient, medieval, and modern India. Okay? If we will see our political subject, then it is around the number of questions that are coming from political subject. If we will see our economic subject, then the number of questions are almost same near the environment subject, or sorry, economic subject. So if we will see the density of the environment subject, so density is very huge, but the syllabus that it includes, it's undefined or it's not elaborated well. So how we can see the questions, how we can see our approach, how we can make in our planning. So we have to see that how we have to do what we have to do to tackle these questions, because the most number of questions are being untackled by the students. They face a lot of problem in solving those questions. So we will be seeing an analysis again that how these questions are difficult or how these questions are easy. So I have another trend here that if I'll divide all the questions that came from 2014 to 2021, that there were easy questions, there were medium questions, there were difficult questions, and the total number of questions of their sum. Okay? So in 2014, if I'll see, the number of easy questions were only 1, the number of medium level questions were 10, and the number of difficult questions were 7. Okay? If I'll compare this to 2021, then you can see that the number of questions increased to 6. The number of medium difficulty level questions were 7. But the number of difficult or tough questions that most students were unable to answer or found difficulty, they were almost 12. So there is a rise in the difficulty level or difficulty situation of the environment subject. Here we can see that the questions of difficulty level remained 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 previously, but it rose to 12. So it is very it is a very peculiar situation that every question is demanding a different approach. So it needs to be studied well. It needs to be seen that if our regular material or regular sources are being used properly, if you will just read the standard books or some standard books and you will say that I will be able to solve maximum questions, then you are wrong. You won't be able to solve more than 7 to 8 questions in the examination if you'll just study the routine books and some current affairs aspects, because it includes a lot more than it. So we here at Guidance IAS, we have a very efficient team that work on very good content, and they have done a very good analysis on the environment subject so that you people can get the best that anyone else is providing here. So we are going to next see that what are the different aspects of questions that are coming year on year. So the first thing we'll see that basically I have divided all the environmental topics into these sections. So there is a section of ecology concepts, there is a section of biodiversity, there is a section of climate change, pollution, protected areas, acts and policies, international treaty, bodies, international conventions. I have grouped them together because if you will see previously, there was a question of UNEP, they have made some conventions. UNDP, they have made some conventions also. So I have grouped them together. And there is another thing that is sustainable development. So there is issues related to sustainability, development, and resources. I have grouped this together because sustainable development is basically, if anyone would like to volunteer that what is sustainable development, I will be happy. So what is sustainable development? Okay. Basically, sustainable development is what? I want to make my current resources that is available to me that should be very much efficiently used so that my future generations will be also be able to use them. Okay, so what is available to me here should be available in the same amount to my future generations also. So this transition from today to future, this will be included in sustainable development. So we needed this kind of development that should be sustainable for our future generations also. Next is agriculture. Now if we'll see the trend here, that what is the basic trend, I'll start from 2014, that what was the trend. In ecology concepts it was 0, okay. In 15 it was 1, in 16 it was 0. So likewise, but in 2021 the concepts of ecology, the basic things, it included almost 4 questions. Now, these 4 questions are very high number of questions from single topic. Okay, so how we can get this thing? We'll see this in our further discussion. So, in biodiversity, we can see that the number of questions that its weightage is around 2, 3, 3, 1. But in 2019, it was almost 4 questions. But in 2021, from biodiversity, it was around 5 questions. So this is a heavy weightage. This is a heavy weightage section. But we cannot say that this year, if the questions have come from this topic, then in next exam or in the next coming examinations, the same trend will be followed. So we need to have an approach. If this see, for example, from acts national policies, in 2021 there were 0 questions, but in 2019 there were 5 questions. 5 questions only from acts and policies section. So people prepared this section very well, but they were very much disappointed because they saw no questions from this aspect. So basically same thing happened here in protected areas. In 2021, there were almost no questions from protected areas. But if you will see the previous years, there were 3 questions, there were 2 questions. Okay? So this is a trend that UPSC is not, it cannot be predicted. Its course of action cannot be predicted. But what we can do here, that we can be get prepared for the best 3 to 4 questions, 5 questions, or for the worst, 0 questions. So we need to have thorough knowledge of all the sections, that which section is covering how much weightage, to what extent it can go, or to what extent it can be nil. So we need to have a very basic idea, and our approach should be developed likewise. Again, we'll be saying that if I go through international treaty body conventions, okay, so in 2016 there were 9 questions from this section, 9 questions. But after that, if I'll say in 2020, there were 0 questions from this section. So it is kind of a disappointment, because you study so well, you study so far, you study so deep, but if there are no questions from that section, then it's kind of a disappointment for us. So we need to see that how we have to tackle this kind of things. Then I'll go further with agriculture thing. In 2014-15, there were one questions. In 16, there was 0 question. In 17, there was again 1 question only. But if you'll go further from 2020, there were 3 questions. Into 2021, there were 5 questions from agriculture. So this trend analysis, this will help you in knowing that what is actual scenario of today, what is the current trend of UPSC, how it will make turns, how it will make twist in questions, how there will be some 0 questions like here, and there will be 3 to 4 questions on same topic next year, or the 2 to 3 years later. So we will be going through this trends and analysis likewise. We will be following this trends and analysis. Like if any topic commands some weightage, or it has some density, then we will be working on that topic very hard, or we'll be seeing those topics very differently than those topics that do not have that much weightage. But if those topics also came previously, or also have some density, then we will be seeing those topics thoroughly. Now, next we have here that now the basic approach was here for this session was to go through to know environment syllabus. But there are a lot of different aspects in environment. So the best approach that we found, that it should be done through the previous year's question paper. So basically we are saying environment syllabus through previous year's question papers. So we have been analyzing here that the ecology topic here, that what is ecology and what are its aspects, how we have to go through this topic well. So first thing is ecology. So what is basically ecology? I will be going very short on these things. Ecology is basically the study of relationships of the living organisms with each other and their environment. Okay, so how this is done? What are the different kind of organisms are there, like autotrophs, that is plants, heterotrophs, that is animals. So we'll be seeing those things in detail. So here we'll be covering history of ecology, what are its environment and its components, what are the levels of organization. So we'll be going through detail in these sections, that how they form. Now, we will be seeing here a previous year question paper on ecology basic concept topic. So, first question is with reference to the food chains. Now, here this is a key term, food chain. In an ecosystem, which of the following kinds of organisms is or are known as decomposer? Okay, organism or organisms. Now, this question came in 2013, but I will let you know that in 2021, we'll be seeing another question of which of the following is detrivorous? Okay, earthworm, jellyfish, seahorse, and woodlice. Okay, so would you anyone like to tell me that what is the difference between decomposer and the detrivorous? What is the difference between decomposer and detrivorous? Because they form a very basic concept of ecology. So UPSC has asked question on this topic in 2013 and 21. So basically, detrivorous are the organisms. Those break down the complex. They feed on basically dead matter, and they turn the dead matter into simple matter, like complex matter into simple matter. Now this simple matter are being decomposed again by the decomposers. So basically this is the idea of decomposer and detrivorous. So we will be saying that there are questions like on food chain in 2014 and 2021. Now I will be reading the question. Which of the following is the correct sequence of a food chain? First option is, now it is being jumbled between the three options like diatoms, crustaceans, and herrings. Now I am going to see 2021 question. Consider the following kinds of organisms like copepods, cyanobacteria, diatoms, and foraminifera. Now, here there is a twist that is being played by UPSC. What is the twist? That which of the above are primary producers in the food chain of oceans? Okay. Now, this is a very, very good question. This is a very good question that UPSC has asked. First thing is that UPSC has already provided the thing that if I've asked this before, I can ask this thing in future also. But the kind of twist it has make that we can see. Do you know that what are crustaceans, herrings, and diatoms? Basically, these live inside the ocean or the sea. But on this side, we will be seeing that it has asked that primary producers. Okay, so primary producers are basically they are the first level producers. They take sunlight and they produce their own food. So basically, they are autotrophs. So we need to have a very basic knowledge that what are the primary producers and what is their effect on food chain of the oceans. So here we'll be seeing that the diatoms have been included in both the questions. Okay, the one thing that diatoms have been included in both the questions. But the second thing we are unable to see that neither copepod, cyanobacteria or foraminifera have been included. And here crustaceans and herrings are included. But if we will have a very minute knowledge of things, if from this 2014 question you would have learned about crustaceans, then you will be able to know that these crustaceans, they are foraminiferous only. Okay? So foraminiferous are basically one kind of crustaceans. So here, if we will have a basic knowledge that diatoms are the basic one, then comes crustaceans, then comes herrings. So from this topic, we can just conclude here that foraminifera will be discluded. Then here four option will be gone. And about cyanobacteria, if we have learned about the origin of earth, so if we will go through that part, then the first thing that formed was where the oceans. So the life evolved inside the ocean. So what were the ancient organisms or the first organisms that evolved during that time? So if we have that basic knowledge or that basic idea that how the organisms had evolved, which were the organisms that produced oxygen, okay? So we will be able to solve this question that in the oceans, cyanobacteria and diatoms. Okay, so they are basically the primary producers of the oceans, and here we have seen the same thing. Now we will be going further on the functions of an ecosystem. Like we can see that what is an ecosystem we have seen. If we have seen ecology, that study of relationships, in an ecosystem there are various kind of animals, plants or organisms and other abiotic factors. They are interacting with each other and they have formed one their niche kind of thing, or their place to where they can live together. So this is basically an ecosystem. So in this ecosystem, what are its parts or aspects? There are energy flows, there is a food chain, there is a food web. So which animal consumes which organism, and they form part of a food chain. Like for example, we human beings, we eat plants also. Some of us would eat non-vegetarian food, I will specify. So that is an animal or an organism. So we are heterovorous. But plants, do they prepare the food? Do they eat something? No. They actually take sunlight and they produce their own food. So they are autotrophs. So there is basic classification of autotrophs and heterotrophs. After that, there are saprophytes, those who feed on dead material, detrivorous, for example. So there is an ecological pyramid, like the primary producers, secondary producers, consumers. Okay, so this pyramid is followed. This pyramid, we can see it it consists of different trophic levels. Okay, it consists of different trophic levels, like how the things, how they eat, how they live in that environment. So they basically form a part of an food web and an ecosystem. Like for example, if we'll see a very basic example, like if there is some pollutant that is added to soil, like the fertilizers or chemicals that is added to the soil. Now this soil will absorb those chemicals and fertilizers, and that will be grown into fruits or crops, or into it will enter into the food chain system. Now this polluted or adulterated, I will use polluted here, this polluted crops or fruits, those will be consumed by animals such as human beings or cows, or those animals which are fed on agricultural feed. So those will be eating them. Now the amount of pollutant that entered the food chain and that entered the secondary consumer, those will be called as biomagnification. Now, this pollutant, it goes into different trophic levels. This accumulation will come towards the top level of the ecological pyramid. So, this is the issues which are related, because which are related to the environment, because the primary consumers, they take those pollutants and those are accumulated in their bodies, and those accumulated pollutants are carried forward to the towards the next level of food chain. So next we will be saying what is biotic interaction, what are biogeochemical cycles. So biotic interaction is the interaction between the different organisms, plants together. Okay, now same way biogeochemical cycles, we have different kind of cycles, that is sulfur cycle, carbon cycle, nitrogen cycle, etc. So how these cycles are working together, There is also water vapor cycle, which you might be knowing very well. So we will be seeing those things in further discussion. Now next is ecological succession. Ecological succession is, for example, we can say that I have a barren land. Okay, the rainfall occurred, then the grasses came out. Okay, first succession was there. There was a grassland ecosystem. Then more rainfall came, then the trees grown up. So there was a second level of ecological succession. Now trees growed well, they were well maintained. Now some fire occurred and the trees were burned. Okay, now the trees have vanished and there is an invasion of another kind of species which took their position, which took the position of the trees. So there was a third ecological succession. So there are different ecological successions and different types of ecological successions, which we will be seeing further. Now we will be seeing another question. Will be going to analyze this thing like in 2014 and 2021. Okay, there is one basic thing, that symbiotic association and symbiotic relationships. So what are the symbiotic associations and symbiotic relationships? We'll be seeing afterward. First we'll see the question. Lichens which are capable of initiating ecological succession even on a bare rock are actually a symbiotic association of algae and bacteria, algae and fungi, bacteria and fungi, and fungi and mosses. Okay. Now in 2021, there is one question: which of the following have species that can establish symbiotic relationship with other organisms? Okay. Options are cnidarians, fungi, and protozoa. Now, symbiotic relationship is basically when two organisms live together in an environment, in which environment those two organisms benefit from each other, or they are getting something or the other thing from each other. So this is called as a symbiotic relationship. For example, in coral reefs, there are polyps, okay, and green algae or red algae. If you have seen coral reefs, then there are different colors of coral reefs because of different algae which are in symbiotic relationship with that polyps. Okay. Similarly, here it has asked about lichens. So, what is the relationship of lichens with each other? We can say that the algae and fungi, they live in a relationship so that this association could occur. Now in 2021, it has asked that which of the following species, that symbiotic relationships of cnidarians, fungi, and protozoa. For tackling this kind of question, we need to have a very basic approach, that what are the different kind of symbiotic relation associations, what are the different organisms, how better they will be forming different kind of relationships. So we need to have this thing. So we can take an approach from this question, that yes, this kind of question can come in future. So we can have that thing in mind and we can make our preparations likewise. So here we have seen that cnidarians, they have very good symbiotic relationship. Fungi, as it is specified here, it also has the symbiotic relationship. Now protozoa. Protozoa also have the symbiotic relationship, but it is of something like it have symbiotic relationship with termites. So it is like all of them have the symbiotic relationships with other organisms. So we need to know, we need to have an analysis. So we will be helping you like in these questions, that how you have to make an approach. Now there is another question on biogeochemical cycles. Same in 2014 and 2021, we can see that there was an question on carbon cycle and there is a question on biogeochemical cycle. So we can see very simple thing. I'll be reading the question like, which of the following adds or add carbon dioxide to the carbon cycle of the planet Earth? Options are volcanic actions, respiration, photosynthesis, and decay of organic matter. So in this option, we can see that carbon dioxide, if, for example, do we produce carbon dioxide? Yes or no? Yes, we produce carbon dioxide through respiration. So this option is cleared. In photosynthesis, is carbon dioxide produced? Okay. What is the process of photosynthesis? Would anyone like to elaborate on this thing? On photosynthesis? What is photosynthesis? Basically, green plants basically do a process of photosynthesis with the presence of pigment called chlorophyll, through which they intake carbon dioxide and they produce oxygen. So this option is cancelled. Now, in volcanic action, we will see that if volcanic have anyone see a volcanic eruption on TV or any movies or have read about the volcanic eruptions, you would have seen the photo or picture. If you will visualize it, then volcano is shown like this and there is some gases coming out of it, gases and ashes. So what are the contents of these gases and ashes? So one of the component of it is carbon dioxide. It also includes sulfur oxides, oxides of sulfur, oxides of nitrogen, etc. etc. But it also includes the oxides of carbon dioxide. So this is an option of correct option. Then next is decay of organic matter. If we will see that if a human being is there or any animal is there, if it went dead, okay, its material, will it release carbon dioxide in the atmosphere or not? Would anyone like to add to it? If any animal has went dead, will it release carbon dioxide into atmosphere? Yes, it will release. How? Now, we need to know that an animal or something or most of the thing in the planet Earth is made up of basically carbon dioxide. Basically, it includes some elements like carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen. Like our body includes water, it has lot of cells. They are made up of proteins. Proteins are basically the synthesizers of nitrogen. Okay, we eat food. In that food, we basically have carbon contents of carbohydrates. We have starch. If we take glucose, it also contains carbon. So basically, carbon is included in almost all of the intakes of all the animals. Okay. So it will, if it is intaking carbon, then it will release carbon also. So basically, the answer here is 1, 2, and 4. Now, next question of 2021 will be saying that in the case of which of the following biogeochemical cycles, the weathering of rocks is the main source of release of nutrients to enter the cycle. Okay, I am reading question once again. In the case of which of the following biogeochemical cycles, the weathering of rocks is the main source. Okay, now emphasis is given here on weathering of rocks is the main source of release of nutrients to the enter the cycle. So here, if we will see that if any rock is there, I have a rock in my hand, does it will release carbon dioxide if it is weathered? No. Carbon cycle, basically if we respire of or there we feel burn some fuel or wood, it will release carbon dioxide or it will have a effect on carbon cycle. Now nitrogen cycle, if there are lot of plants and animals, they decay, they release nitrogen. The nitrogen is released from our vehicles also, oxides of nitrogen, it adds to the nitrogen cycle. But nitrogen is not present in the rocks, so it will not be an answer. Now next is phosphorus cycle and sulfur cycle. Okay, now as I have taken an example of volcano. Okay, now in this volcano, when the gases are coming out, it includes sulfur dioxides or oxides of sulfur. It can be SO2, SO3, etc. So this sulfur cycle does not come out due to weathering of rocks. But if you would have learned or you would have seen about the phosphorus, then phosphorus is being imported or exported. It is traded on large scale. So this phosphorus cycle, it is taken out from the weathered rocks or the rocks or from the deep bottom earth. So that's why this is important and it becomes an important component of the rocks that includes phosphorus as mineral. So we can see the aspect of the question that UPSC has asked here. Basically, one was carbon cycle. Now here in 2021, it has included carbon cycle, nitrogen cycle, phosphorus cycle, and sulfur cycle also. Now for tackling this kind of questions, we need to have a basic knowledge about all the cycles that we get the information through the previous year's question papers. So we have to analyze them very well. Now next topic we'll be saying is, actually we have another question. Now the question is on ecological succession. In 2013, now in 2014, there was another question on ecological succession. But here there is one trick that is played by UPSC, or there is one turn. It has also included a symbiotic association. Actually, this question we have seen further. That was the same question. Now, we'll see these questions differently. We'll see how this question is approaching. I'm reading the question as, in the grasslands, trees do not replace the grass as part of ecological succession because of, okay, insects and fungi, limited sunlight and paucity of nutrients, water limits and fires, and none of the above. If you will see through this question very narrowly, so would you like to explain what is the demand of this question or what this question is trying to ask? What UPSC is trying to gain here from this question? Okay, so here basically it is asking about grassland. Okay, okay, in the grasslands, trees do not replace the grasses. Okay, so how a tree can replace a grass? So we need to know this thing. What are the important factors? What are the important things that should be included here? Now in 2021, there was a question on savanna grassland. Okay, there was a question on savanna grassland, like how the savanna grassland, what are the important factors that are required for trees to grow. So we'll be seeing that in further discussion. Here we can see that for grassland, okay, trees trees cannot grow more because of water limits and fire. Okay, because in grasslands there is an average annual rainfall of less than 100 centimeter, that is between 50 to 75 centimeters. So this is not a very much favorable condition for any system to grow trees or sustainable for trees to grow there. So it is like, if we'll go through the options, this is talking about the disease, insects and disease. Okay. Limited sunlight and paucity of nutrients. It is talking about the, this thing basically happens in the evergreen forest because of the huge and tall canopy. There is a paucity of sunlight because sunlight cannot reach towards the ground level. Okay, if this is the higher canopy, it is dense. But the shrubs and trees which are at lower level, they are unable to get sunlight. And in the rainforest, tropical evergreen rainforest only, because of more rainfall, there is nutrient deficiency because the soils, the nutrients get leached out because of excess of rainwater. So this is not an option, and none of the above. So we will be seeing that the same kind of question with ecological succession was asked in 2014. Okay, so we have discussed this question earlier. Now we'll be saying next question. Our next section is terrestrial ecosystem. Basically, what is terrestrial ecosystem? The part of ecosystem which is included on the territory, that is land. It is called as terrestrial ecosystem. So it includes various types of forest. It includes various types of grasslands. It includes various types of agricultural aspects and everything. What we do on land, it comes under the forest ecosystem. So basically, what a forest ecosystem includes, it includes the succession that small shrubs or ferns or large trees. So this form part of a forest ecosystem. Now, if we will talk about the Indian forest types, then we can see that in India, we have different kinds of forests. We have tropical evergreen forest, we have moist deciduous forest, we have dry deciduous forest, we have semi-arid forest, grasslands, different types of grasslands, and we also have desert ecosystem. So there is a transition of forest because of the climatic conditions and the soil and other aspects which are available at that area. I will be just giving a brief account on how our forests in India are divided. So basically, in some parts of Western Ghats, in some parts of Andaman and Nicobar, and in some parts of Northeast India, we have tropical evergreen kind of forest. Then if we'll go inwards, then we will be having moist deciduous forest in this region. Then we will go further, we'll have grassland in this place. Okay. Here also we'll be having deciduous kind of forest. Here we'll be having semi-arid kind of forest. Okay. So, and here along the foothills of mountains, we'll be having mountain kind of forest that includes pines, alpines, and rhododendrons, etc. So, this is the classification of Indian forest types. Then what are the grassland ecosystem and desert ecosystem? They are very close to each other. We can see that here it is a desert part, and here it is a grassland part. We also have grassland part at this part of India. So it is some like, it depends on rainfall. If there is good amount of rainfall in that region, then we can have a grassland ecosystem. If during 2 to 3 years or 5 years, if there is less rainfall, then it will be converted into desert ecosystem. Now, these are the aspects that it is covered, like how deforestation occurs and how desertification occurs in this Indian forest types and in the grasslands. So we'll be seeing them further. Now, State of Forest Report 2021. We'll be discussing this report in with elaboration. Actually, what happens in recent year or last 2 to 3 years, there was a question on the percentage of forest covered area in that state, and there was a comparison between different states. So we need to have a thorough knowledge of how these forests are classified, how the percentage of forest area depending upon the coverage, or the uh, percentage of the area of that state, or the complete area of that state. So it is depending on the state. So we'll be seeing next is aquatic ecosystems. Now, basically, what aquatic system is, it contains organisms, it contains lakes. So what basically happens in an aquatic ecosystem? We have some organisms like algae, like cyanobacteria, and other organisms. We have fishes, crustaceans, we have big fishes, we have other corals, like in Gujarat side, or we have mangrove system. So we have different kind of aquatic system. Now what happens if we will see, and for example, if we will see lake ecology. So in lake ecology, if we have a lake, if I have a lake here, okay, in this lake, there are different zones, photic zones, benthic zones, neretic zones, etc. Now what happens? There is some sunlight which is penetrating through some part of this lake. Now, if some stream or some industrial effluent, it is being connected to this lake, then the nutrients like nitrogen, which is present in fertilizers. Obviously, there are also sulfur, phosphorus, etc. Now, these nutrients, they get inside the lake. Now, what happens? The algae, which are present at this point, they get, this lake get nutrient rich, and this algae, they have excess of these nutrients, so they start getting bloomed. So it leads to a phenomena of algal bloom. It will start leading to a phenomena of algal bloom. Now, because of this algal bloom, the sunlight which was coming, it gets blocked by this bloom of algae. So the living organisms, fishes, crustaceans, etc., which lived below it, they start getting less amount of oxygen, because the dissolved oxygen, or we call it as biological oxygen demand, of this lake, it increases. So biological oxygen demand of a lake, if it increases, that means that the amount of oxygen that has been consumed by the organisms and animals of that lake has been increased. So because of this phenomena, the animals, fishes, etc. of this below the of lower zone, they start dying, and the lake is converted into a marshy lake or a dead lake because of the dead zone created below the algal bloom. So we'll be seeing this more things further in details. Now next we have seen the eutrophication. This phenomena of nutrient rich lake or the phenomena of lake getting nutrient rich, it is called as eutrophication. Okay, this is a phenomena of eutrophication. Now next we will see, we have seen here that harmful algal blooms occurs. What are its effects on the lake? Now in the same way there is wetland ecosystem also. Wetland ecosystem is an example of the lakes which are getting degraded because of the activity of human beings or other aspects. Those wetlands are getting degraded. So to conserve these wetlands, there are various programs that are run by the government. For example, National Wetland Eco Conservation Program. Okay. Now there are another is similarly, there are various other ecosystems like estuary ecosystem, mangrove ecosystem, coral reefs. Now the effects of coral reefs on coral bleaching. Now what happens? The coral reefs live inside in deep, not too deep, but it live on the shallow water. It live on shallow water. So if I have this sea or ocean, the coral reefs are living in some this part of the ocean. Okay. Now, what happens? There are various reasons because of which the coral bleaching occurs. If I add fresh water, if the fresh water is added into the lake will get less saline and there will be more other organisms which starts developing into that region. Whereas in same way, if there is nutrient enrichment, if there is nutrient enrichment, then the same phenomena like eutrophication will also occur here, because of which the animals which are living in symbiotic relationship, that are the corals, if I'll classify them as like corals, it is a relationship of, here it is polyps, and this is, on this polyps there are green algae, or I can just say that there are algae. Okay, so these two organisms form a symbiotic relationship with each other and they give color to the corals. So because of heating or global warming also, this algae, they get disassociated from the polyps, and because of which the bleaching occurs. Okay. Next is initiatives to protected coastal areas. So there are various initiatives that has been taken to protect coastal areas. We'll be seeing them in further detail. Okay. For rivers, there is Namami Ganga Action Program. It is basically an example for one river, Ganga, but there are various other initiatives also. We'll be seeing them, and the recent measures taken for the conservation. Now, next we have a question here. We have a question of 2014 and 2018. We can see the question is basically on coral reefs. Here is also the coral reefs. Now the question basically is demanding the location of corals. So these are the location, and here the second thing is the location is demanding the coral reefs location in the oceans or seas. Now here in 2018 the UPSC has gone one step further, and it has asked about if coral reefs host far more animal phyla than those hosted by tropical rainforests. Now this is a question that is something beyond, that needs some very basic knowledge about the coral reefs and tropical rainforest. Now, first we'll be saying 2014 question that in India we have coral reefs at Andaman and Nicobar. Another is Gulf of Kutch. Another is, next statement is Gulf of Mannar, and next statement is Sundarbans. So here we will see that we have coral reefs at Gulf of Kutch. It is true. Now, if we will go through analysis, if you have seen the map of India, then we can see that we have coral reefs at Gulf of Mannar also. So here we can get two options, two, three in two parts. But if we will see the coastal area of Sundarbans, then Sundarbans basically contains mangroves. So, and it has an ecology that there is flowing of fresh water into the sea. So, in that part, the coral reefs does not develop because of the flowing of fresh water. So, here we can eliminate that Sundarbans will not contain coral reefs. So, therefore, our answer will be 1, 2, and 3 here. Now, moving to next question of 2018, we'll consider like most of the world's coral reefs are in tropical waters. So, as I have said earlier, that the coral reefs develop in the shallow water region and not in the very depth of the ocean. They also grow in a particular temperature. They are available in temperate regions also, but the amount of coral reefs that are in temperate region is far too less than those which are present in the tropical areas. So this part is true. Now second part is more than one third of the world's coral reefs are located in territories of Australia, Indonesia, and Philippines. So we need to know a basic knowledge of where the coral reefs are present. For example, you would have heard the name of the Great Barrier Reef. So where the Great Barrier Reef is present? Can anyone would answer this question? The Great Barrier Reefs. Basically, it is present in Australia. Similarly, the corals are also present in Indonesia and Philippines. And together they form around 41% of the total coral reefs that are present in the world. So this point is also correct. Now, third part of the question is coral reefs host far more animal phyla than those hosted by tropical rainforest. Now, here we'll see we need to have some basic understanding like how to make an approach to this question. Now, it is not just asking phyla, it is also asking animal phyla. So, the organisms which are animals that are present in more comparatively to tropical rainforests. So, if we will see the books, if you will see the basic books, there it has been specified that coral reefs are compared to the tropical rainforest in the amount of organisms they hold there. So this statement is also true. So basically the answer here will be 1, 2, and 3. So the approach here basically is coral reefs are being studied on their location. But in the next step, if we'll go, then there are coral reefs which has to be studied on their different locations. with the comparison to the different kind of ecosystems like rainforests, like savannas or grasslands or deserts, etc. So we have to make a comparative report on this one. Now next question we will be saying on mangroves. In 2011, there was a question that the 2004 tsunami made people realize that mangroves can serve as a reliable safety hedge against coastal calamities. How do mangroves function as a safety hedge? So it is basically asking that how mangroves are saving the coastal regions from getting affected due to tsunami. So the first option here is the mangrove swamp separate the human settlement from the sea by a wide zone in which people neither live nor venture out. Okay. So second option is the mangroves provide both food and medicine, which people are in need after any natural disaster. So basically, you know that everyone know that we do not eat any kind of mangroves or any of its parts. So this is eliminated. Now, third question is part is the mangrove trees are tall and dense canopies and serve as an excellent shelter during a cyclone or tsunami. No one goes below a mangrove tree to take a shelter. Okay. They basically live far away in their settlements. So this option is also not correct. Now fourth part will be the mangrove trees do not get uprooted by storms and tides because of their extensive roots. Basically what happens is the mangroves roots, they have like this. This is swampy area and they have a aerial root system. Because of this aerial root system, the mangroves are more stronger and they will not get uprooted easily because of the disaster. So option D will be here the right answer. Now we will be saying 2013 question that which of the following is the correct sequence of ecosystems in order of decreasing productivity. So we have now comparison of mangroves, oceans, grasslands and lakes. So basically we can see that which part is having more productivity and which is having less productivity. So comparison is between mangroves, oceans, lakes and grasslands. Actually, we were on the point on question of correct sequence of ecosystems in order of decreasing productivity. So basically, here we have options of mangroves, oceans, lakes, and grasslands. So to have an approach to this question, we should be knowing one basic thing. The basic thing that we should be knowing is that if we know one concept, that if I have this region, in this region I have here fresh water and here I have ocean or sea water. Okay. In this region I have fresh water and in this region I have ocean water. So these two waters are mixing at this point. So if I consider this region, if I'll say its productivity, it is the most productive region of the world. It is the most productive regions of the world. And if we will see that if I take an example of India, then at Sundarban Delta, there are mangroves. There are mangroves at the coast of Andhra Pradesh, Orissa, Tamil Nadu, and in some other places also where the rivers meet the oceans or seas. So here I will know that the most productive region will be mangroves. Now next thing is I need to know the difference between the grassland, lake and oceans. So if I'll go by the chronology, then we know that the least productive regions of the world will be oceans. But how we will be getting this thing to know that which is the most productive region and which is the less productive region? Okay, I know two things. But in future, if UPSC tries to just confuse students that how these things will work, then we have to know another basic thing, that there is productivity. It depends upon the carbon output per square meter. So this will be the productivity. So I can say that the grasslands are having more productivity than the lakes and oceans, because grasslands include diverse species. It includes grasses, some trees, shrubs, flora, fauna. So next will be grassland. Now if I want to compare between the lakes and oceans, so we can see that in lakes, in a lake, okay, there are some photic zones, aphotic zones, benthic zones, etc. and etc. But here, there is nutrient enrichment. There is nutrient enrichment by the stream of river, or by the some rainfall, or by human activity, or by fishes, flora, fauna, etc. But ocean is a very vast territory. Here there will not be that much at, there will be nutrient enrichment, but not at that level. So in lake there will be more productivity compared to the ocean. So this question or gives an answers for mangrove, grassland, lakes and ocean. Okay. So next question will be saying of 2015. Now here the UPSC has changed again its approach. Now it is asking that which one of the following regions of India has a combination of mangrove forest, evergreen forest and deciduous forest. Okay, mangrove forest, evergreen forest and deciduous forest. Now the options it has given us, it is North Coastal Andhra Pradesh, West Bengal, Southern Saurashtra and Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So we will see this through a map, that how this thing will can be approached, how this question can be approached. Okay, if I consider this as a map of India, then here I can say that here are Western Ghats, here are Eastern Ghats, here are mountain forest and some forest of the Northeast India. Here are also mountain forest. This is also Himalayan region. It also consists some of the mountain forest, okay, as well as grasslands also. Now we have Andaman and Nicobar at this point, below this point, if I'll tell it exactly. Now, in Western Ghats, I can see that I have some kind of, okay, question is mangrove forest, okay. So mangrove forest, as we know, that it is, mangrove forest is at Mumbai region, at Saurashtra region, at this region, somewhere around this region, and somewhere around Sundarban Delta region. Okay. Now, the evergreen forest region. Evergreen forest region is very limited. It will be somewhere around the southern part of the Western Ghats, it will be around the northeast region, and it will be Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Why it will be Andaman and Nicobar Islands? Because it is closer to the equator and it lies in the tropical equator belt. Next option we have is deciduous forest. Now we know one thing, that deciduous forests are basically found at the interior where the rainfall is less. Okay, so it will be at the interior. There are two types of deciduous forest. One is moist deciduous forest and another is dry deciduous forest. So we can find this type of forest in the interior of India. By the options we can see that in Andhra Pradesh we can find mangroves, we can find deciduous forest. Okay, but we will not able to find evergreen forest in this region. Now, Southwest Bengal, we will be finding mangrove forest, deciduous forest, but not evergreen forest. So this will be out. Now, third region we have Southern Saurashtra. In Saurashtra region, we will be finding mangrove and deciduous forest, but not evergreen forest. It will be outed. But in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, because of its topography, we can find all the three types of forest in this region. So making it a unique place where tropical evergreen forest, deciduous forest, and mangroves, all three of them can be found. So this is the approach that you need to take at the examination, that how the map of India is done, where the forests are distributed, what is basically the climate of that region that influences that part of forest region of that area. Okay.